We've reached the fourth step of our HeART journey, the art of peace. And today we explore a fundamental question. What is your relationship with your emotions and feelings? Within us, two extremes often emerge. On one hand, we may think that our emotions and feelings are random, not worth listening to, without meaning, at best something to manage or rebalance. Of course, it's important to take care of our emotions, but at the same time, they are not random. On the other hand, we might believe our emotions should always be overanalyzed. Today, we'll take a different path to approach our emotional world, a path illuminated by the Word of God. First, let's clarify a distinction between emotions and feelings. Emotions are generally more immediate reactions. For example, we might feel a surge of anger when someone says something we perceive as hurtful. Feelings, on the other hand, are more settled. They are like a color that tints the way we perceive reality. For instance, we may feel a deep sadness because we sense we've missed an important opportunity in life, more settled. Perhaps emotions are more intense, but usually short lived unless they settle. Feelings tend to be less acute but deeper. They can become a kind of lens or emotional tone through which we experience life both inside and around us. Now we ask, is there a connection between our feelings or emotions and our thoughts? Generally, our feelings are linked to our perception of reality, some deeper than others. Of course, not every single feeling is like that. As I said earlier, sometimes we feel angry simply because we have a stomach ache, and that too is a perception. Still, there's often a deep relationship between emotions, feelings, and thoughts. Now, the Word of God helps us to explore that deep connection. Scene of the disciple on the road to Emmaus, they are arguing with one another. That's the scene. Jesus draws near, asks them a question, and the gospel says they stop with sad faces. Jesus then invites them to share what we might call the content of their sadness. They speak from their perception of the story they had lived, a perception marked by a failure. Their sadness is the emotional resonance of that deep perception. As we'll explore further in the model on thoughts, these perceptions can be more or less realistic. But what's important is recognizing them within ourselves. I make some examples. Anger often signals that a boundary of self respect has been crossed. Fear points to a perceived threat. Sadness suggests the loss of something precious or a missed opportunity. Joy reflects the sense of gaining something vital. Wonder arises from encountering something new and unexpected. Of course, these are just a few emotions. Many other nuances exist. Many other nuances exist. As I was saying, emotions lead us toward deep perceptions that we live within us. That's why it's so important to pause and ask ourselves, what am I feeling? For example, where did that anger come from when those words were spoken to me? What did I perceive in that moment? What did I perceive in that moment? Was it aggression, danger, or a feeling of being worthless? And when it comes to deeper, more settled feelings, it's helpful to ask, what am I feeling in my life? To ask ourselves, what am I feeling in my life? And what lies inside that feeling? For instance, what's behind the sadness I carry? Perhaps regarding a life theme like love. The exercises will help you engage in this kind of inner work. That's why it's essential to listen to our emotions and feelings, avoiding both extremes. Yeah, avoiding both extremes, over analysis on one side and neglect on the other. So, today's invitation is this: listen deeply to your emotions and your feelings because they lead you to deep perceptions that need to be recognized so that they can be understood and, if needed, gently transformed.